The stars had never seemed so cold to Admiral Taiho as they did on that day. He stood on the observation deck of his flagship, the Iron Will, watching the alien city spread beneath him like a carpet of living light. This was Centrum Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Federation, home to over 50 billion beings from thousands of different species. And humanity had finally arrived. It was the year 2087, by Earth's calendar. Humans had discovered faster-than-light travel only 3 years ago. They had built their first interstellar fleet in 18 months. 12 ships now represented all of humanity's power in the universe. 12 small vessels floating in an ocean of giants. Taiho was 52 years old. He had spent 30 years in military service, rising from a simple soldier to the commander of Earth's entire space navy. Back home, people called him a hero. Here among the stars, he felt like a child holding a wooden sword in a room full of warriors. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door slid open, and Yuna stepped inside. She was Earth's chief diplomat, a woman of 45 with sharp eyes and a calm voice that could silence any argument. Today, however, her face carried something Taiho had never seen before: exhaustion, defeat. "The negotiations are over," she said quietly. Taiho turned from the window. What did they offer? The same thing they offered yesterday. And the day before? Yuna walked to his side and looked down at the alien city. "They want us to surrender mining rights to Mars, Europa, and Titan. They want unlimited access to Earth's oceans. They want our young people to serve in their labor programs for the next 200 years. In exchange for what? Basic shield technology. Nothing more." Taiho felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. Anger would not help them here. "We told them no? We told them no." Yuna's voice was bitter, and they laughed, Taiho. They actually laughed. "Chancellor Vorix told me that Tier 7 species do not refuse offers from the Federation. He said we should be grateful they even speak to us." The classification still burned in Taiho's mind. Tier 7, the lowest rank in galactic civilization. It meant humanity was considered barely intelligent, hardly worth noticing. The Federation had over 4,000 member species, and humans sat at the very bottom of that list. 3 days ago, Taiho had attended a military demonstration. The Federation wanted to show their new allies what real power looked like. He watched as a single alien cruiser destroyed an asteroid the size of a small moon with one shot. The weapon used energy levels that human scientists could not even measure. Their most powerful nuclear missiles would barely scratch the paint on that ship. "We are not ready for this," Taiho admitted. "We thought reaching the stars would make us important. Instead, it showed us how small we truly are." Yuna nodded slowly. "The universe is very old, Taiho. Some of these species have existed for millions of years. They built empires when our ancestors were still living in caves. To them, we are insects who just learned to fly." Below them, the alien city continued its endless motion. Flying vehicles moved in perfect patterns. Towers of crystal and metal reached toward the clouds. Beings of every shape and size walked streets made of materials that changed color with their moods. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was everything humanity was not. "What do we do now?" Taiho asked. "We go home. We grow stronger. We come back in 100 years, maybe 1,000, and try again." Yuna smiled weakly. "Humanity is young. Perhaps that is not a weakness. Perhaps it is a gift. We have time to learn." Taiho wanted to believe her. He wanted to think that someday, somehow, humans would stand as equals among these ancient races. But the doubt was heavy in his heart. That night, something changed. Taiho was asleep in his quarters when the alarm woke him. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. He ran to the bridge where his crew worked frantically at their stations. "Port," he shouted. "Sir, we are detecting massive energy readings from the Sol system," his navigation officer said. "Something is happening near Earth. Show me." The main screen flickered to life. It showed a view transmitted from a Federation monitoring station near Jupiter. Earth hung in the darkness, blue and green and white. The only home humanity had ever known. Then the reading spiked. Wave of golden light exploded outward from somewhere deep in space. It washed over Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars. It swallowed the asteroid belt, Jupiter, Saturn. It kept expanding, growing, consuming everything in its path. And then it was gone. The screen showed empty space. No planets. No moons. No sun. Where the Sol system had existed for 4.5 billion years, there was now only darkness. Taiho felt his legs weaken. He grabbed a console for support. What happened? Where is Earth? Unknown, sir. The officer's voice trembled. All scans show nothing. The entire system has vanished. That is impossible. 8 planets, a star, billions of people. They cannot simply vanish. But they had. The Federation launched investigations. They sent their best scientists, their most advanced ships. They scanned every possible dimension, every alternate reality, every corner of space-time they could reach. They found nothing. After 3 months, Chancellor Vorix closed the case. Standing before the Galactic Council, he delivered his verdict with the same cold indifference he showed in all matters concerning lesser species. The Sol system experienced an unknown spatial displacement event. The cause is undetermined. The human species, numbering approximately 12 billion individuals, must be declared extinct. Their remaining representatives in Federation space will be granted temporary asylum until natural death. This matter is concluded. Taiho sat in the gallery, listening. 12 ships. Maybe 4,000 humans total. That was all that remained of his species. And the Federation spoke of them like they were cleaning up a minor mess. Yuna found him afterward. She sat beside him without speaking. There was nothing to say. Their families were gone. Their friends were gone. Their entire world was gone. On Centrum Prime, Keeper Neva updated the Federation's historical archives. She was old even then, a being devoted to recording the rise and fall of civilizations. Her entry for humanity was brief. Species number 4,847,291. Classification: Homo sapiens. Homeworld: Earth Sol system. Status: extinct. Cause of extinction: unknown spatial displacement. Cultural significance: none. Technological contribution: none. This species existed for approximately 200,000 years, but achieved interstellar travel only recently. They made no lasting impact on galactic civilization. She saved the file and moved on to other matters. Within a decade, most Federation citizens forgot humans had ever existed. Within a century, only historians remembered their name. The universe continued without them. Wars were fought. Empires rose and fell. Species evolved and died. 2,000 years passed like a slow breath in the life of the galaxy, and somewhere, in a place beyond normal space, Earth waited. 2,000 years is a long time for mortals. For the galaxy, it was merely another chapter in an endless book. Chancellor Vorix stood at the window of his office. Looking down at Centrum Prime, the city had changed much since the days when humans walked its streets. The crystal towers had grown taller. The flying vehicles moved faster. But beneath the surface, everything was rotting. The Galactic Federation was dying. Vorix had inherited leadership of a government that ruled nothing. Corruption had eaten through every level of authority. Governors stole from their citizens. Admirals sold military secrets. Judges accepted bribes openly, without shame. The laws meant nothing. Power belonged to whoever could take it. He was the 17th Chancellor in the last 300 years. Most of his predecessors had been assassinated or removed by scandal. Vorix survived only because he was too careful to trust anyone and too paranoid to make enemies. On his desk sat reports from every sector of Federation space. None of them brought good news. The Korath Empire was moving again. Warlord Dren had united the military factions of the Galactic Rim under his banner. His species were predators by nature, evolved from hunting creatures that killed for pleasure. They believed strength was the only law, weakness deserved only death, for the past 500 years. The Korath had expanded slowly, taking world after world from species too weak to resist. 47 civilizations had been completely erased. Billions of beings had been enslaved, worked to death in mining colonies and weapons factories. Vorax knew he should stop them. The Federation still had more ships, more soldiers, more resources, but his government could not agree on anything. Half the council wanted to fight. Half wanted to negotiate. The other half simply wanted to run away and hope the problem disappeared. He laughed bitterly at his own thoughts. Half and half and half. That summed up Federation politics perfectly. Everyone wanted something different. Nobody wanted to sacrifice anything to get it. The third power in the galaxy made everything more complicated. The Merchant Concordat controlled all major trade routes between civilizations. They had no military, no territory, no citizens. They had only money. Money could buy almost anything. The Concordat played the Federation against the Korath, selling weapons to both sides, profiting from every death. They had no loyalty to anyone but themselves. When the final war came, they would simply pick the winner and offer their services to the new order. Vorax turned away from the window. He was tired. He had been tired for centuries. His species lived long lives, and sometimes he wondered if that was a curse rather than a gift. He had seen too much. He had watched too many species rise with hope and fall into darkness. Sometimes, late at night, he thought about the humans. That strange little species that had arrived so briefly and vanished so mysteriously. He remembered how they looked at the stars with such wonder, such excitement. They had believed the universe was beautiful. They had believed they could make friends among the galaxies. How wrong they had been, far from Centrum Prime. In a lonely monitoring station at the edge of explored space, Ambassador Kella performed her daily duties. She was young by her species standards, barely 400 years old. This posting was a punishment, a way for her superiors to remove her from important matters without officially dismissing her. Her crime had been honesty. She had told the Council that their policies toward lesser species were creating resentment. She had warned them that oppressed people eventually fight back. They had responded by sending her to the most remote station they could find. The monitoring post watched empty space. Specifically, it watched the coordinates where the Sol system had once existed. Nobody expected anything to happen there. Nothing had happened there for 2,000 years. The assignment was meaningless, which was exactly why they had given it to her. Kella was reviewing old files when her equipment detected something unusual. A small fluctuation in gravity, probably just a passing comet or a chunk of debris. She almost ignored it, but something made her look closer. The fluctuation was growing. Slowly at first, then faster. Within minutes, it had become the largest gravitational reading her station had ever recorded. Something massive was forming in empty space. She activated her long-range scanners. They showed nothing visible. Just darkness, just stars. But the gravity kept increasing. Whatever was coming, it was big. Very big. Kella sent an urgent message to Federation headquarters. Unknown phenomenon detected at former Sol system coordinates. Gravitational readings exceed all normal parameters. Requesting immediate investigation. She waited for a response. None came. Typical. Nobody cared about her reports. The readings continued climbing. Space itself seemed to bend around the invisible point. Kella felt fear growing in her chest. She had studied physics at the finest universities in the Federation. She knew what this kind of reading meant. Something was pushing through from another dimension. Then the tear appeared. It was not a wormhole. Wormholes were stable, controlled, understood. This was something else entirely. A wound in reality, glowing with golden light, expanding rapidly across thousands of kilometers through the tear. Kella saw something impossible. A planet blue and green and white, wrapped in clouds, surrounded by a halo of golden energy. It emerged slowly from the dimensional rift, like a creature waking from a long sleep. Behind it came a yellow star, burning bright and steady. Then more planets, moons, asteroids, all returning to their ancient positions. The Sol system was coming home. Kella's hands trembled as she recorded everything. Her scanners detected cities on the blue planet, not ruins. Living cities full of lights and movement. Whoever lived there had not just survived, they had thrived. But the numbers made no sense. Her equipment showed population readings in the hundreds of billions. That was impossible. When the humans vanished, they had numbered only 12 billion. How could they have grown so much? Then she detected the ships. They came through the rift behind the planets. Vessels larger than anything Kella had ever seen. Each one was the size of a space station, bristling with technology she could not identify. And there were thousands of them. Tens of thousands. Hundreds of thousands, the golden light from the rift reflected off their hulls, making them look like stars themselves. Kella finally managed to send another message. This time, she did not waste words. To Chancellor Vorex, to the Galactic Federation Council, to anyone who can hear this, the humans have returned, and they have brought an armada that could destroy us all. On Centrum Prime, Keeper Neva felt a strange sensation in her ancient bones. She had lived for 12,000 years watching civilizations rise and fall like waves upon a shore. She had learned to sense important moments. Times when history changed direction. This was one of those moments. She pulled out her records on humanity and read them again. Such a brief entry for such a mysterious species. She remembered the prophecies she had collected over the centuries. Stories from dozens of different civilizations, all speaking of the same thing. The vanished ones shall return from beyond time. They will carry fire that burns without heat. They will bring light that reveals all shadows. When they come, nothing will remain unchanged. Neva had always thought those prophecies were myths, ancient stories with no real meaning. Now she was not so sure. She walked to her window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, something incredible was happening. Something that would shake the foundations of everything the galaxy believed. The humans had come home. And they had brought 2,000 years of unanswered questions with them. The delegation from the Galactic Federation arrived at Earth 7 days after the planet's return. Chancellor Vorex came personally, bringing his finest diplomats and his most trusted advisors. He wanted to see these returned humans with his own eyes. What he found broke everything he thought he knew about the universe. The human ship that greeted them. It's called the Eternal Dawn. It was commanded by a man named Minho, who welcomed the alien visitors with a warm smile and perfect manners. The ship itself was larger than most Federation space stations. Its hull shimmered with energy patterns that Federation scientists could not understand. Its weapon systems remained hidden, but the scanners detected enough power to destroy a small moon. And this, Minho explained, was just an ordinary exploration vessel. We have millions like it, he said casually. The Eternal Dawn is actually one of our older models. We keep it running for sentimental reasons. Vorex felt his hearts beating faster. Millions of ships this size? The entire Federation Navy numbered perhaps 50,000 vessels, and most of those were small patrol craft. If the humans spoke truth, they possessed military power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. But the surprises were only beginning. The delegation was taken to Earth's capital city. It floated in the sky, suspended by technology that seemed to ignore gravity entirely. Buildings made of light and crystal rose toward the clouds. Gardens hung in midair, full of plants that glowed with soft colors. Rivers of clean water flowed through channels that curved upward and sideways. As if the laws of physics were merely suggestions. 2,000 years ago, Ambassador Kella whispered, these people could barely build ships that flew between planets. 2,000 years ago was 50,000 years ago for them, human scientist replied. Her name was Hannah. She was tall and thin, with silver hair that moved like it was alive. She walked beside the alien delegation, explaining things that made their minds spin. When our solar system vanished, we were pulled into a dimensional fold, a pocket universe where time flows differently. For every year that passed in your galaxy, approximately 25 years passed for us. Hannah smiled gently. We have had a very long time to grow. 50,000 years, Vorex repeated. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. You developed alone for 50,000 years? Not entirely alone. We brought our history with us. Our art, our science, our dreams. We remembered where we came from. We remembered how we were treated. The last words carried weight. Vorax felt them like a cold wind on his face. You remember us, he said carefully. You remember the Federation? Remember everything, Chancellor. The classifications. The insults. The demands. Hannah's smile never changed, but her eyes grew distant. We remember being called insects. We remember being told our species had no significance. Vorax wanted to apologize. He wanted to explain that times had changed, that the Federation was different now. But he knew those would be lies. The Federation treated lesser species the same way it always had. Perhaps even worse. They met Admiral Taiho in a garden that overlooked the floating city. He looked exactly as records described him from 2,000 years ago. Middle-aged, strong-faced, with eyes that had seen too much. But he was not aged. He was not ancient. He looked like a man in his prime. We discovered how to stop aging early in our isolation, Taiho explained. Death from old age is a choice for us now, not a requirement. Many of us who remember the old days are still alive. Diplomat Yuna joined them. She too looked unchanged from the historical records. She greeted Chancellor Vorax with perfect courtesy, but there was something in her expression that he could not read. We have watched your galaxy from afar, Yuna said. We found ways to observe without being detected. We saw the Federation crumble. We saw the Korath Empire rise. We saw billions suffer under tyranny while those with power did nothing. Vorax lowered his eyes. There was nothing he could say in defense. We also saw species fight back, Yuna continued. Small rebellions, desperate struggles against impossible odds. Beings who refused to accept slavery even when resistance meant death. Those stories gave us hope that the galaxy was worth saving. Saving. Vorax looked up. You intend to intervene in galactic affairs? We intend to fix what is broken. Yuna's voice carried the weight of absolute certainty. We did not return for revenge, Chancellor. We returned because this is our home galaxy. We were born here. We belong here. And we will not watch it burn. Intelligence Director Sora arrived with reports. She was a small woman with quick movements and sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. She laid documents before Taiho, showing the full extent of Korath atrocities. 47 species exterminated. Hundreds more enslaved. Death camps on frozen moons. Breeding programs to create better workers. Experiments on living beings that made even hardened soldiers sick. Warlord Dren is preparing a new offensive, Sora reported. He plans to attack the Federation's core worlds within the year. His fleet has grown to 10,000 warships. Current Federation defenses cannot stop him. Vorax felt despair settle in his chest. He had known this day would come. The Federation had grown too weak, too divided. They could not stand against the Korath tide. Taiho read the reports carefully. His face showed no emotion, but his hands tightened slightly on the papers. 47 species, he said quietly. 47 entire civilizations, erased from existence. The Federation condemned the actions officially, Vorax offered weakly. We passed resolutions. We issued statements. Statements. Taiho's voice was flat. While children died in mines, while mothers were taken from their families, while entire worlds burned. You issued statements. Silence fell over the garden. Even the wind seemed to stop. Finally, Taiho looked up. His eyes met Vorax's directly. Chancellor, I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to answer honestly, without diplomatic evasion. Can the Federation stop the Korath Empire? Vorax hesitated. Then he shook his head slowly. No, we cannot. Will the Merchant Concordat help you? They will help whoever pays more. If the Korath win, the Concordat will serve them gladly. He turned to Yuna. Then we have no choice. We must act. Yuna bowed her head in agreement. The Council has already voted. We are prepared to move. Vorax felt hope flicker in his chest for the first time in centuries. You will help us? You will fight beside us against the Korath? Taiho looked at him with an expression that was almost sad. Oh, Chancellor, We will not fight beside you. Your fleets would only get in the way. He stood and walked to the edge of the garden, looking out at the impossible city below. We will fight for you. We will protect every species in this galaxy, whether they are strong or weak, advanced or primitive, important or forgotten. Vorax asked, "After how we treated you, why would you help us?" Taiho was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Because we remember being weak. We remember being afraid. We remember looking at the stars and wondering if anyone would help us. He turned back to face the Chancellor. No one did. No one cared about the small species struggling to survive. That hurt more than any insult. That loneliness shaped us. He walked back to the table and placed his hand on the reports of Korath atrocities. We swore that if we ever gained the power to help others, we would use it. Not for conquest. Not for revenge. But for protection. For justice. For all the species who have no one else to speak for them. Yuna stepped forward. We are offering you guardianship, Chancellor. Not alliance. Not partnership. Protection. Complete and unconditional. Every species in this galaxy will be safe under our watch. Vorax stared at her. In all his centuries of political experience, he had never heard such words. Every treaty, every agreement, every deal came with conditions, with demands, with hidden costs. Nothing was free. Nothing was given without expectation of return. "What do you want from us?" he asked finally. Yuna smiled. It was the first genuine smile he had seen from any human. "We want you to live. We want you to grow. We want you to become the best versions of yourselves without fear." She reached out and touched his hand gently. "That is all we have ever wanted. For everyone." Warlord Dren received the news of Earth's return with laughter. He sat in his throne room on the Korath homeworld, surrounded by trophies taken from conquered species. Skulls of enemy commanders lined the walls. Flags of fallen civilizations hung from the ceiling. Every item told a story of victory, of dominance, of absolute power. The extinct primitives have returned. Dren showed his teeth in what his species used as a smile. How delightful. I thought the galaxy had grown boring. His advisors stood nervously before him. They had seen the reports. They knew what human ships looked like now, but none of them dared suggest caution. The last advisor who recommended caution had been eaten alive during a feast. "My lord," one brave officer spoke, "the Federation claims that human technology has advanced significantly. Perhaps we should gather more intelligence before acting." Dren waved his massive hand dismissively. "Technology means nothing without the will to use it. Humans were cowards 2,000 years ago. Cowards do not change. They hide behind their machines and cry for mercy when real warriors appear." He stood from his throne, his body casting shadows across the room. Dren was enormous even by Korath standards, a creature bred for war across hundreds of generations. His ancestors had conquered their own world through pure violence. His descendants would conquer the galaxy the same way. Send the fleet, he commanded. All 10,000 ships. We will crush these returned insects and take their planet for ourselves. Their technology will become our technology. Their people will become our slaves. The Korath Armada launched 3 days later. It was the largest military force the Empire had ever assembled. Battleships the size of mountains. Carriers filled with fighters like angry wasps. Troop transports carrying millions of soldiers hungry for conquest. They crossed the galaxy in a week, traveling through space lanes that had seen countless invasions throughout history. Every species they passed cowered and hid. The Korath were coming. Nothing could stand in their way. Nothing ever had. The human fleet met them at the edge of the Sol system. Commander Junho stood on the bridge of the Silver Light, watching the Korath Armada spread across his screens like a dark stain. 10,000 ships. It was an impressive number by galactic standards. By human standards, it was almost sad. "Open a channel," Junho ordered. His voice was calm, almost bored. "Let them hear us." The communication systems activated. Junho's words would reach every ship in the Korath fleet. Attention Korath Empire vessels. This is Commander Junho of Earth's Defense Force. You are entering protected space. Turn around now, and you will not be harmed. Continue your approach, and you will be stopped. This is your only warning. Warlord Dren's response came immediately. His face appeared on screens across both fleets, twisted with contempt. Stopped by what? A handful of pretty ships and soft words. He laughed loudly. I have conquered 100 worlds, human. I have killed billions. Your threats mean nothing to me. Junho did not react to the insult. I am required to offer you the chance to retreat. You have refused. The consequences are now yours to face. Consequences? Dren leaned forward eagerly. Show me your consequences, little human. Show me what your kind can do against true warriors. Junho nodded slowly. As you wish. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Human ships did not fire weapons in any traditional sense. There were no missiles, no energy beams, no explosions lighting up the darkness of space. Instead, reality itself seemed to change around the Korath fleet. Battleships suddenly found themselves inside stars. Their crews vaporized before they could scream. Carriers phased through solid matter, merging with asteroids in twisted combinations of metal and rock. Fighters simply stopped working, their power systems shut down by forces their pilots could not see or understand. The human ships moved like ghosts, appearing and disappearing without warning. They could not be targeted, could not be tracked, could not be fought. They existed on a level of technology so far beyond the Korath that the battle was not really a battle at all, it was an execution. Warlord Dren watched his mighty fleet dissolve around him. Ship after ship vanished from his tactical display. Thousands of warriors, the pride of the Korath Empire, dying without even firing a single shot. His hands gripped his command chair so hard that the metal bent. Fight them, he screamed. Fight back! His officers tried. They launched every weapon they had. Missiles flew toward human ships and simply passed through them, as if the vessels were not really there. Energy beams hit human hulls and were absorbed without effect. Nothing worked. Nothing even slowed them down within 11 minutes. The greatest military force in Korath history had been reduced to scattered debris. Only Dren's flagship remained, floating alone in the wreckage of 10,000 ships. A human vessel appeared beside him. Not approaching, just suddenly there, as if it had always existed in that spot. Commander Junho's voice came through the speakers. Warlord Dren, your fleet has been neutralized. Your crew will be transported to holding facilities. You will be brought before Admiral Taiho to face judgment for your crimes. Dren stared at the human ship with something he had never felt before in his long life. Fear. True, absolute fear. What are you? He whispered. We are what you made us, Junho replied. 2,000 years ago, you and others like you showed us that the galaxy respects only power. So we gained power. More power than you can imagine. More power than any species has ever held, then use it. Dren snarled, his pride returning briefly. Destroy me. Kill me like a warrior. No, Junho's voice was final. Death is too easy. You will live, Dren. You will live for a very long time, and you will spend every moment of that life making amends for what you have done. Dren was transported off his ship before he could respond. He appeared in a holding cell on Earth, surrounded by walls he could not break and guards he could not fight. For the first time in his existence, he was completely helpless. Admiral Taiho visited him the next day. The human admiral looked at the Korath warlord with an expression that was almost pitying. 47 species, Taiho said quietly. You erased 47 entire civilizations. Do you even remember their names? Dren said nothing. I thought not. Taiho pulled out a list and began reading. Names of species, names of worlds, names of individuals who had died under Korath rule. He read for hours. He read until Dren could no longer meet his eyes. You will learn every name, Taiho said finally. You will learn their histories, their cultures, their dreams. You will understand exactly what was lost because of your hunger for power, And then what? Dren asked. His voice was hollow. Then you kill me? No. Then you help us rebuild what you destroyed. Taiho stood and walked toward the door. We have technology that makes death optional, Warlord. You could live forever if we allowed it. Perhaps you will. Perhaps you will spend eternity fixing what you broke. He paused at the door and looked back. That is the difference between us, Dren. You used your power to destroy. We use ours to heal. We use it to protect. And we will never stop. Across the galaxy, word of the battle spread like fire. The Korath Empire, which had terrorized civilizations for centuries, had been defeated in 11 minutes without losing a single human life. Their entire fleet had been erased as casually as someone might brush dust from their clothes. The Merchant Concordat immediately sent messages of friendship to Earth, Chancellor Vorex announced. A new era of cooperation between the Federation and humanity. Every species that had lived in fear began to hope that perhaps, finally, someone would protect them. On slave worlds throughout the former Korath territory, strange ships appeared in the sky. Human soldiers descended not as conquerors, but as liberators. Commander Junho led them personally, moving from planet to planet. Breaking chains and opening prison doors, they found species that had never known freedom. Children born in slavery, knowing nothing but work and pain. Elders who had given up hope generations ago. All of them looked up at the human soldiers with wonder and disbelief. Who are you? They asked. Why are you helping us? The answer was always the same. We are humanity. We help because we can. Because we remember what it feels like to be small and afraid. Because no one should face darkness alone. The liberation took months. Millions of slaves were freed. Entire civilizations began rebuilding from ashes. Human ships provided food, medicine, technology, whatever was needed. They asked nothing in return. Keeper Neva recorded everything. She had lived 12,000 years, and she had never seen anything like this. A species with absolute power choosing to use it for kindness. Choosing mercy over revenge. Choosing to heal instead of harm, she updated her archives with trembling hands. The entry for humanity grew longer every day. 1 year after Earth's return, the galaxy had become unrecognizable. The Korath Empire no longer existed. Its conquered territories had been freed, its military disbanded, its leaders brought to justice. Warlord Dren spent his days working in rehabilitation centers, learning the names and faces of those his people had killed. He would never be free again, but neither would he be allowed to escape through death. His punishment was to understand, truly understand, the weight of his crimes. Some said it was cruel. Others said it was mercy. Perhaps it was both. The Galactic Federation had transformed into something new. Under human guidance, the ancient government rebuilt itself on principles that had never been tried before. Every species, no matter how small or weak, received equal voice in the new council. Decisions were made not by the powerful alone, but by consensus of all. Chancellor Vorex remained as a ceremonial leader, a symbol of continuity with the old ways. But real power flowed differently now. Ambassador Kella had become humanity's primary liaison to the Federation. She spent her days learning human history, human philosophy, human dreams. What she discovered amazed her. Humans had used their 50,000 years of isolation wisely. They had not become conquerors drunk on their own power. Instead, they had developed a civilization built on protection of the weak and justice for the wronged. Their technology could destroy galaxies, but they chose to use it for healing. Their weapons could unmake stars, but they preferred to build new ones. Scientist Hannah opened Earth's archives to scholars from across the galaxy. Libraries containing 50 millennia of human knowledge became available to anyone who wished to learn. Technologies that would have taken other species millions of years to develop were shared freely. Without cost, without conditions, disease began disappearing from populated worlds. Human medical science could cure almost anything, from simple infections to genetic disorders that had plagued species for thousands of generations. Doctors trained in human techniques spread across the stars, bringing hope to billions who had known only suffering. Hunger followed disease into history. Human agricultural technology could grow food anywhere, in any conditions. Deserts became gardens. Frozen moons became farmlands. No child in the galaxy needed to go to bed hungry ever again, Captain. Minho led exploration fleets beyond the edges of known space. The Eternal Dawn and ships like it searched for civilizations that might be lost or suffering. Species that had never been contacted, worlds that needed help. Each discovery brought new opportunities for connection, for sharing, for growth. Admiral Taiho addressed the United Galaxy from Earth's capital. Representatives from 4,000 species watched as he delivered what would become known as the New Dawn Declaration. "We vanished from this galaxy 2,000 years ago as children," he began. His voice carried through screens and speakers across countless worlds. "We were weak. We were afraid. We looked at the stars and saw only danger, only beings more powerful than ourselves, only threats we could not face." He paused, letting his words settle. "We return now as something different. Not as conquerors, though we could conquer. Not as rulers, though we could rule. We return as gardeners." The word seemed strange to many listeners. Gardeners. What did gardens have to do with power? Taiho continued. A gardener does not own the flowers in their garden. They tend them. They protect them from frost and drought. They give them water and light. They help them grow into what they were always meant to be. His expression softened. The galaxy is not a battlefield to be won. It is a garden to be tended. Every species is a flower that deserves to bloom. Some grow quickly. Some grow slowly. Some need more care than others. But all of them have worth. All of them have beauty. All of them deserve the chance to reach toward the sun. He looked directly at the cameras, seeming to meet the eyes of everyone watching. "We will be your gardeners. We will protect you from those who would trample you. We will give you the tools you need to grow. And when you are ready, when you have blossomed into what you were meant to be, we will stand beside you as equals." The declaration ended with a promise. No species will face darkness alone. No child will cry for help without answer. No world will fall while we have strength to save it. This is our oath to you. This is our purpose. This is why we returned. Keeper Neva watched the speech from her archive chamber on Centrum Prime. Tears she had not cried in millennia fell down her ancient face. She had recorded the rise and fall of thousands of civilizations. She had seen empires built on slavery and conquest. She had watched species destroy themselves with their own power. Never had she seen a species choose differently. She opened her records and began typing the new entry for humanity. Her hands moved slowly, choosing each word with care. Species number 4,847,291. Classification: Homo sapiens. Homeworld, Earth, Sol System. Status: Ascended. She paused, considering what came next. Cultural significance: Humanity has become the guardians of the Milky Way galaxy. Their power exceeds all known measurements. Their technology surpasses all other species by millions of years. They could rule as tyrants. They could destroy all who oppose them. They could reshape reality itself according to their desires. At another pause. Another careful thought. They choose instead to protect. They remember being small, and they have chosen to defend the small. They remember being weak, and they have chosen to shelter the weak. They remember being alone, and they have chosen to ensure no one faces loneliness again. She typed her final line with trembling fingers. This is why they are worthy of the power they hold. Not because they are strong, because they are kind. On Earth, Diplomat Una stood on a balcony overlooking the restored oceans of her homeworld. The water sparkled under the light of the same sun that had warmed human faces for millions of years. Ships moved across the sky, heading to destinations across the galaxy and beyond. Director Sora joined her, carrying reports from the latest council meetings. "The Andromeda expedition is ready to launch," Sora said. "Hannah believes there are civilizations there waiting to be found. Some may be suffering. Some may be lost." Achuna nodded slowly. The Andromeda galaxy was 2.5 million light-years away. Even with human technology, the journey would take time. But they had time. All the time in the universe? What do you think we will find there? Sora asked why UNA considered the question. I think we will find what we found here. Beings struggling to survive, species trying to build something meaningful, civilizations facing challenges they cannot overcome alone. She turned to face Sora with a gentle smile. And I think we will do what we always do. We will help. We will protect. We will tend the garden until it blooms. In the distance, the first ships of the Andromeda expedition began their departure. Massive vessels carrying thousands of crew members, equipped with everything needed to bring hope to another galaxy. They did not carry weapons of war. They carried medicine, food, knowledge, and the promise that help was coming. Scientist Hannah watched from her laboratory as the ships disappeared into the vastness between galaxies. She had spent her entire life studying the dimensional fold that had transformed humanity. Now she understood its purpose. They had been removed from the galaxy to grow. They had been given time to become what they needed to be. They had been prepared across 50,000 years for this exact moment to return, to heal, to protect. Admiral Taiho joined Hannah at the window. He was the same man who had felt so helpless 2,000 years ago, watching aliens mock human weakness. Now he commanded fleets that could reshape reality. Yet his heart remained unchanged. "Do you think we are ready?" Hannah asked him. "For everything that lies ahead." Taiho watched the Andromeda ships grow smaller in the distance. "I think we were always ready," he said finally. "We just needed time to discover it. Time to remember what matters. Time to understand that true power is not the ability to destroy." He placed his hand against the window, as if reaching toward the stars. True power is the ability to protect, to heal, to love without condition. We learned that in our exile. We carry it now in everything we do. The last ship vanished into the void, beginning a journey that would take years. But humanity had years. They had centuries. They had eternity if they chose it, and they chose to spend that eternity helping others, because that was who they had become. Not conquerors, not rulers, not gods demanding worship, just gardeners, tending the infinite garden of the universe, one flower at a time. The stars shone bright above Earth. The same stars that humans had wondered about since they first looked up from their caves millions of years ago. Now those stars were not mysteries to fear. They were neighbors to meet, friends to help, family to protect. Humanity had come home, and their real work was just beginning.